Hi, this is Mike Stallings with a recap of this past Sunday's sermon. When we consider the question of why bad things happen, especially to good or innocent people, there really are no great answers and no complete answers, and even the best answers are somehow lacking. This is a question that has troubled people of all faith traditions for thousands of years. There just seems to be a terrible inconsistency between our faith that God is all-powerful and all good and our experience and observations that bad things happen every day. And worse, sometimes the answers that seem to bring comfort and clarity end up creating more confusion. To say that everything is part of God's plan means that the Holocaust or terrorists flying planes into buildings were part of God's plan. And that runs the risk of making God seem to be a monstrous planner with little regard to people's suffering. And that doesn't conform to the image of God that we have in Jesus Christ. Most of the time, the reason bad things happen is because people terribly abuse God's gift of free will. Sin is at the root of so many bad things that happen, and yet God values our free will so highly that God will watch us hurt ourselves to protect it. However, there are natural events that create tragic outcomes. We live in a universe that is governed by natural law. And most of the time, these laws work in a wonderful way that benefits all of us. But sometimes tragedy occurs. The same law of gravity that holds us on the ground will hurt us if we fall. The same rain that erases a life-threatening drought can devastate a community through flooding. The process of cell division that accounts for every single part of us can, for some unknown reason, go wrong and create malignant tumors. Ultimately, while there are no concrete answers to the difficult question of why bad things happen, we have the gracious gift of God's promise that somehow in all the suffering, God is present. We know that Christ, our example, suffered the worst injustices possible and still overcame them. We know that God has an ultimate purpose for creation, to be redeemed, and for God's kingdom to be established on earth. And we know that we are surrounded by heroes who have suffered terrible tragedies in their lives and still hold on to that thin thread of faith. They are perhaps the greatest lesson to be learned by considering the question of why bad things happen. Suffering is real. It's terrible. But God can redeem the darkest times and provide the light of faith and hope.